Hello and welcome to Longshot Larry's Sports Astrology. Today we're going to be moving on with our theory series and be looking at planetary stations and how they impact a game. So a planetary station needs to form within 24 hours of the game, preferably can be before or after to have an influence on that game. Pluto, Uranus, Saturn, Jupiter and Mars seem to be the most dramatic in terms of their impact on a game. Neptune and Venus are less reliable, a little bit more subtle in their influence. Mercury forms the most stations of all the planets, so it is slightly less powerful in determining incomes, but it can be important, especially if it's aspecting other planets. When a station occurs, similar to what we've been learning about planets on angles and exact aspects, it is important to see how a team relates to that planet via aspects and this concept of resonance, which I'm going to explain in a few of the examples. So how do you find stations coming up? First one is to look in the ephemeris, highlight them, note them. They are pretty important. There is a way on Solarfire to see the stations coming up, and I'm going to show you that right now. So if you look down the bottom here, you can see that Mercury is retrograde, and if you move the mouse over, it tells you when it went retrograde and how long till it goes direct. It goes direct in 10 days depending on your location. Venus 71 days. So at the moment Saturn is going direct in 2 days, which is going to affect NFL games this weekend. And Pluto has just turned direct 2 days ago. I'm going to have some examples on how that influenced some games. So that's how you find them. So let's have a look at some examples. So we're going to look at baseball, NFL, some NBA and some Nations League soccer examples. The first one is very recent, chart 23. Let's have a look at that. So this is the New York Yankees away to the Boston Red Sox. New York were slight favourites in this game. Started a little bit later than I anticipated, 8-11. But in this particular game here, Pluto is going stationary direct within 24 hours, so that's going to have an influence. You can also see there's a few other things going on in this chart. Venus is exactly on the descendant, well, it's actually just in the 7th house, rules the ascendant. That's very important when we get into the Frawley method. And the moon is trine Saturn here, exactly applying 3 minutes. Boston actually ended up getting the win here, slight upset. But the score was 6-2. So here I've brought up the Boston coach Alex Cora solar data here. You can see that Pluto is affecting him quite powerfully. He's got Pluto, it's going to station square his Libran sun here and sesquiquadrate his Venus. Venus rules his Libran sun. So very, very close alignments, and it actually turned out to be positive in this case. Venus is also prominent here, relates to that being a Venus sun. So even though it's a square and a sesquiquadrate, which I'll be honest, I didn't know how that was going to play out, but it turned out being positive for the Boston coach. Okay, so the next example is Super Bowl 51, quite a famous game, this one. So here we go, Super Bowl 51, New England at Atlanta. New England were slight favourites here, and in this game here we've got Jupiter is about to turn retrograde actually. Very, very powerful here. You can see a few other things going on here. The Mars, exactly trying the part of fortune. The moon came in handy for New England as well. Okay, so let's have a quick look at the notes for this. You'll see here, New England was down 28-3 and they came back to win, which is the biggest comeback ever in Super Bowl history. A couple of other records broken here. Tom Brady won his most valuable player award the 4th time. That's a record. He threw for 466 yards. That's the most in a Super Bowl. And Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, the coach for New England, 5 times they'd won the Super Bowl together as a combination. That's also a record. So how is Jupiter affecting these teams? I'm going to bring up Bill Belichick. Okay, so this Jupiter's turning retrograde. You can see his sun is very, very closely aligned with Jupiter. We've got a very rough time for Bill Belichick, but it's about 19 minutes away. They talk about 17 minutes being that Kazumi, and instead of being combust, the planet is positive. So you can see here, this is the idea of residence. How does Jupiter affect Bill Belichick? Well, he's got his sun very, very close conjunct to Jupiter, so it should benefit them, and it did in this case. Next examples, we're going to look at a regular season NFL game and an NBA playoff game. Okay, so this is a regular season game, one of the first of the year. It's in September. New York Giants are away to Carolina. Carolina were favourites here. We've got Pluto turning stationary direct, and you'll see here it's square Uranus separating 4 minutes and applying, well, Mercury's just past a square here separating 4 minutes, so it's actually exactly in the midpoint of Uranus and Mercury. Mercury rules the part of fortune here. Very, very powerful alignment. Who benefited? Let's have a look at the New York Giants coach. New York Giants coach Tom Coughlin, we've got an exact time for his chart. You can see that Pluto is applying to a trine to his Virgo sun, quite close. Very, very powerful, and they ended up winning quite comfortably in this game. The next one is an NBA playoff game from this year. Phoenix Suns were away to the LA Clippers. A lot going on here. You can see that Neptune down here is about to turn stationary retrograde in a day or so. And it's also conjunct the IC. And the Clippers got the win here. They were slight underdogs. If we look at the first game for the LA Clippers here, you can see Neptune is applying to a trine to Venus here, which rules the sun quite wide. I didn't know how that was going to play out, but that's one for them. If we look at the coach for the LA Clippers, Tyronn Lue, you can see that natally his sun is quincunx Pluto and quincunx Neptune, possibly opposite the moon, so that's like a yod formation. So natally he has Neptune and Pluto pointing at his sun. It's a bit of a stretch, I admit, but that ended up being a winning combination for him in how he related to Neptune on the day. And last chart, Italy versus Spain, which is the semi-final in the UEFA Nations League, which is a football tournament in Europe. This one here, we've got Pluto actually turned stationary direct just before the game kicked off. Very, very powerful influence. You can also see Venus is close to the descendant. It's in a different sign though. So I'm just going to put up there's two different charts for the country of Spain. I'm just going to show them quickly. Okay, so this is the first chart for the amalgamation of Spain, 19th of January 1479, from Nicholas Campion's book. You can see here that natally Pluto is sextile Neptune and Uranus, and trine Mercury, sextile the node, so it's in a pretty good position. And Uranus rules the Aquarian sun here, which is close to the descendant. So Pluto resonates pretty well from this chart for Spain. Now there is a more modern chart for Spain, which has to do with the overthrow of Franco, I think it was. You can see the second chart for Spain here, 22nd of November 1975, has a Scorpio sun. So once again, Scorpio relates well to Pluto. Venus is on that sun. And it's close to the descendant at the start of this game. Sun is trine Saturn, sextile the ascendant, which is on the MC at the start, and the part of fortune is actually trine that, which is helpful. And Spain actually end up getting a slight upset here, 2-1. That's the last chart there. Pluto stationary just before the kickoff. So it's important to see how teams relate to the planets forming stations before a game to get further insight. So thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe to keep the channel going to get more videos, and we'll see you in the next one.